Well, the off-cycle governorship election in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo are just a few hours away. And then we're monitoring closely what the developments are. We're joined now by ACP Muyiwa Adejobi, the police force PRO. He joins us live from Imo. Thank you for joining this conversation. You've been talking a lot about how prepared police is for this election. Talk to us about what is unique about the security arrangement this time compared to what we had earlier in February.
Thank you. As you know, that election is a process. It's not a day thing. We believe so much in the principles of the 5 P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance. One thing that is unique is the ability of the Inspector General of Police to start preparation for these off-cycle elections in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State on time. We had adequate training for the men that have been deployed to carry out election security management in these states. Aside from that, the IGP started on time to have threat analysis in the affected states. We have threat analysis on time, and we have been working in line with what we have from the threat analysis from the 3 states. Not only that, we are not relying on what we got like 2-3 months ago. These threat analyses have been subjected to reviews and reviews and reviews for us to be in tune with current happenings in these states. It has formed the basis for our adequate deployment in these 3 states accordingly. And of course, it's on that premise the IGP has done deployment of very senior police officers to head security, election security management in these states. In Kogi State, we have the DIG in charge of Department of Force Intelligence, DIG Abu Soni, to manage election security in Kogi. We have DIG Frank Emeka Mba, MNI, to be in charge of Imo State, and DIG Daniel Shokari Pedro, MNI, to be in charge of Bayelsa State. One thing is that these DIGs, apart from the one in Kogi, they are from this region. They are the coordinating DIGs in their respective regions. Apart from the North Central, where Kogi falls, and headed by DIG Abu Soni, the DIG from North Central is the DIG Operations, who coordinates the general security in the 3 states. So that's why DIG Abu Soni, who has been a strong and experienced election security manager, has been deployed to Kogi State to manage Kogi State. So our deployment has been based on our threat analysis. We know where to deploy heavily. We know where to deploy lightly. We know how to deploy because of the availability of these analyses from various states. So we have done what we should. The INEC is doing what it should. The call now is for those concerned, other stakeholders, political parties, and us candidates to do what is right. And to do what is right from them is just to talk to their supporters, to talk to their followers, to do the right thing, and play the game according to the rule.
As much as the force has done what it needs to do, the matter of neutrality has also come to the fore with regards to how they perform their duties on the day of election. This is also a major concern for a majority of electorates. So talk to us about this, because a lot of persons say that this matter of we have prepared ourselves for the election day is a conversation they hear on a regular basis, but on the day of election, they see something totally different.
Yes, we are mindful of that. We have been having reports of certain issues, particularly pre-election incidences in some areas, in some states. And this has formed the basis for the Inspector General of Police to visit some of these states. The IGP was in Kogi, was in Bayelsa, and was in Imo State. And the message was to assure people of this state of our neutrality. He said this on behalf of members of ISIS. because the IGP is a co-chairman of ISES, that is Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. So he spoke boldly to assure people of neutrality, professionalism, and what the IGP believes so much that it's time for us to bridge the gap between us and members of the public, particularly as regards to our role, our primacy when it comes to policing electoral process in this country. We have a lot of role to play, and we need to build that trust in us. We need to build that trust and bridge the gap between us and the people, so that they would know that the police is ready to do the right thing this time around, and to review all our strategies in making sure we have free, fair, credible, and more secured electoral process in Nigeria. Don't forget, the IGP's vision statement is to have that police institution that is professionally competent, rule of law compliant, people's friendly and service driven. You can't have all these things with bad image and people's inability to have trust in you. If we want to achieve the vision statement of the IGP under its leadership, we need to make sure we restore the lost trust in the minds of Nigerians, in the minds of people who are in contact with the police on a regular basis. So for this election, we are going to be 100% neutral.
All right.
We are going to be apolitical. Police officers are not members of any political party. We are to protect electoral process, protect stakeholders, protect those that will be very, very active in this process. That is the job. And our men have been told they know what they are going to do. But in case we have any deviants, we have rolled out numbers of senior officers who to contact. We can't rule out. We may have a deviant who want to misbehave, but I can assure you, any security operative, starting from the police, who misbehaves tomorrow in Kogi, Bayelsa, or Imo State, will find himself to blame. And that is the message from the office of the IGP.
Okay, SCP, let's quickly put you on hold while we cross over to Bayelsa, where we have our correspondent Sarah Ayuku standing by to bring us up to speed with developments leading up to the election tomorrow. Sarah, talk to us. What's the mood like leading up to elections? What are the people saying with regards to the election tomorrow?
Veronica, Nifem, it's good to see you, even though I cannot see you at this point. But then the people are pretty happy that they will be electing the 6th governor of Bayelsa State. We're hoping to see a little over 1 million voters, come out to the polls. We're talking about 2,242 votes since polling units, since we're not going to be having. There were 0 counts, 0 votes at 2 polling units. So 2 polling units won't be having votes at those polling units. So we're expecting to see 1 million people go out to cast their ballots and decide out of the 16 candidates who they want to steer the affairs of the state for the next 4 years. So pretty interesting atmosphere. People are pumped up. It's the way they campaign, which is door to door, talking to themselves, because that Bayelsa State is very peculiar. We're not looking at people from different origins, or different tribe. We're looking at the Ijaw nation now, and most of the people that you see as the 16 candidates are more like they themselves from way. So it's pretty interesting that you have these 16 candidates, of course, just to become the governor of the state. I also have someone who has covered this election for 3 times. Now, this will be his 3rd time coming to Bayelsa State to cover the elections. Uche, it's good to see you. Of course, we've been doing this since yesterday rather, just to ensure that we give people the situation report here in Bayelsa State. A lot of persons are interested as to which local governments will be the decider, even though we know that these local governments are also the flashpoints.
Well, in Bayelsa State, we know that we have about 1,056,800 registered voters. Talking about local governments that will be the decider, we know that, of course, everybody knows the Yenegua local government
area. The state capital.
Yeah, Yenegua has the lion's share of voters in Bayelsa State. That's, by the way, this is the information booklet, the official information booklet of the 23 governorship election in Bayelsa State. And according to the information here, it says that Yenegua local government has 218,000 394 registered voters. That's the majority, the lion's share of the registered voters in the state. And that's followed by what I see here, Southern Niger, of course, Southern Niger, 184,401. And then we go to Sagbama and then Ekeremo. So those are the top 4 local government areas in Bayelsa State that would eventually swing the votes when at the point of collation. So that's the situation. We expect that it's going to be a very tight race in Bayelsa State as usual. In 2019 it was. I don't expect anything different. But you, Sarah, I hear you talking about this is my 3rd time. You're beginning to you sound like I should be feeling like an indigene.
Of course you are. Like Uche knows practically everywhere. We'll tell you how this person or the candidates, how the candidates will fare during elections. But Uche, it's interesting to see how the police had highlighted the number of personnel they were deploying for the elections. They had said that 27,000. That's aside the other sister agencies. We're talking about the NSCDC, the other paramilitary agencies that we're going to be expecting for this election. But something very profound that the DIG had said is that any officer found culpable of or any electoral offenses will be arrested, and if found guilty will be dismissed.
Interesting, tough words from the police there. But the thing is, a lot of times, a lot of these rhetorics end up as just rhetorics. In my experience covering election, I can't point to any security officer. I can't point to any security officer who has been named, blamed, or shamed, or actually decisive action taken against them for electoral malpractices. This is not to say that there have been videos. I'm talking about reflecting on other states. We've seen pictorial evidences, videos, pictures. A lot of these materials have gone viral where we see police officers or other security personnel allegedly involved in electoral malpractice. But it has ended just at that level, okay? So I think that it is not enough for the police to come out in Bayelsa once again to say the same thing that we have heard over and over again. We expect that they would match words with action, because it is a very valid concern in Bayelsa State that security agencies may play some form of partisan role in favor of one candidate or the other. So we expect that the police will take decisive action, match words with action to punish its officers that are found culpable.
Veronica, very interesting. Something that the DIG had said today, just a couple of hours ago, while it gave a last-minute briefing, because we had a bit of protest for and against the removal of the Commissioner of Police here in the state. And the DIG had said that politicians have employed a new tactic, which is employing fake policemen, and they are going to be out tomorrow to ensure that they root out the fake policemen that are on the streets, posing as policemen, of course. Veronica.
All right, Sarah. In fact, it's interesting to know that this matter of neutrality and being non-partisan was something we took up with the ACP, and he said that they have promised to be non-partisan as much as possible across the 3 states. But we still have him on standby.
Absolutely, and he's also saying that they will punish any of the officers who...
Erring officers,
yes, exactly. Force PRO standing by, ACP Muyiwa Adejobi, thank you for staying the course on the program. So we've seen a massive deployment of police in this election, and you've also talked about why that is so, that the police has been able to identify where the key areas are. But what's the strategy to not overwhelm the electorate? Because this has also played a prominent role in voter apathy. What's being done to ensure that, because you look at the figures, ACP, in a particular state, there are about 40,000 policemen, there are 24,000, in Imo, I guess.
And then 27 in Bayelsa.
And that's just the police. Add that to the military personnel and other security agencies. What's the strategy to make this as friendly as possible?
We have made them to understand that our deployment, our presence, whatever the number is, I don't know where you got your numbers from. The headquarters has not rolled out any number. We don't always give out numbers of personnel on the field. It's unprofessional. But be that as it may, our presence is not to intimidate anybody. When the IGP visited these states, Kogi, Bayelsa, Imo, he made it clear that our presence, that the policemen and other security agencies will be heavily deployed. because we are leveraging on the fact that these elections are off-cycle elections, just affecting three states. So we have the ability to mobilize men from other states to augment what we have. We have the privilege of mobilizing logistics from other states to support our resources in these three states. So people affected in these three states should not be afraid of our presence. We are for peace, not for pieces. We are to protect them, protect the electoral process, protect the environment entirely. Don't forget electoral duty for police is just secondary assignment. Our primary assignment to protect lives and property, and we will not leave this undone. While we are protecting the electoral process, we still continue to do our primary assignments, protection of lives and property, maintenance of law and order. So we have many roles to play to police democracy in Nigeria, as is applicable to all other democratic nations across the globe. So the Nigeria Police Force has made it known that our presence is not to affect anybody. You have seen the deployment of military, you have seen the deployment of other members of ISIS, aside from those are not allowed to join us. And these are quasi security outfits or state-owned, state-established and owned security outfits like Vigilante, ABBIAGO, and all of them. They are not allowed to join this special operation. Those you are going to see on the field are members of ISIS, the armed forces, the police, immigration service, custom service, correctional service, Federal Road Safety Corps, NSCDC, even the FCC is part of ISIS now because of vote buying and the likes. So we are mindful of the fact that it's only the members of ISIS that will be on the field. Despite that, we have told our people, we have assured them that people should come out en masse to exercise their franchise tomorrow in all these three states. We are for peace. Our deployment is to protect them. But when they come across our men, they need to respect them. I am sure they are going to respect them as well. Particularly the issue of restriction of movement. There is no how they would not disturb your movement if you are not allowed to move. We have 3 rings of formation, 3 rings of security arrangement. The inner ring is for those that will be deployed to polling booths who are not armed in any way. The middle ring are those that are armed, and we embark on motorized patrol to give cover to those at various polling units in case there's any emergency. Then the outermost will be for restriction of movement. Military men, civil defense, and PMF operatives, they are going to take routes in and out of these states. Please, when you get there, if there's need for you to move, your job is to explain to them and convince them why your movement. Don't be confrontational. Talk to them politely. They are going to consider you. At that point in time, it's discretional. If they don't allow you to go, there's nothing you can do. Because as from this night, 12:01 a.m. to 6 p.m. of tomorrow, 11 November 2023, there will not be movement in these 3 states, Bayelsa and Imo states. I want to appeal to neighboring states and those who may want to transverse through these states to be aware of this restriction of movement order. Definitely, it's going to affect you. Get to this point. So you need to plan ahead on how you're going to move so that you'll not be a victim of this unnecessary gridlock while elections are on in these 3 states.
Right. Quite very clear, Force PRO. We're hoping that there will come a time in our country where we won't have to shut down the whole state because we're holding an election. But kindly hold that thought. We just want you to, also listen to what's happening in Lokoja, where our senior correspondent, Ayodele Zugbako, is standing by. Ayo, in a few hours, we understand that there will be curfew between midnight and 6 p.m. What's the situation report where you are now?
Yes, thank you, Bifemi. That's always the standard practice, 24 hours to that election, and then less than 24 hours. So from 12 midnight now to 6 p.m. tomorrow, there's going to be the lockdown of Kogi State as is your usual practice in Nigeria. Yes, listen to Mr. Muyiwa, the first PRO. It's all looking good. 44,000 policemen drafted. The additional 9 resident electoral commissioners have been brought in here, and I just from Jigawa State, he told me that he will be handling 2 local governments. So when you look at the proportion, that means 2 local governments for each of the residents electoral commission per 2 local governments. So in all, 21 local governments. Maybe we have to have how many people drafted? Maybe 10 resident electoral commissioners in all will all be manning this. But a major concern here is that people are talking about a repeat of what happened 4 years ago. Now, when you look at the statistics, when you look at the indices, the percentage is not encouraging. The turnout is not encouraging. Now, what happened 4 years ago, now people are looking at it to what happened during the presidential election in 2023 and the State House of Assembly election. This state recorded 4 years ago, they recorded a turnout of 37%. It went down to 5% during the presidential election, this presidential election. And a lot of people are saying that, yes, when you look at the number of people that turned out to collect their PVC, yes, the collection of PVC is different from the number of registered voters. Recorded 94% in PVC collection. Now, if we are talking about 94% in PVC collection, we expect that the turnout should be massive. 1.9 million registered voters we have in Kogi State, and they put the average to 900,000 plus men, 900,000 female, and they're saying that, look, we expect at least a minimum of 50% to be able to certify this election as something that is encouraging, that the turnout is okay. So if they did 35% in February, if tomorrow we have 50%, if the security, if they actually do their job in restoring confidence of the people across the 21 local government, because the build up to this election has been easy. The rhetoric from political parties, from the major political parties, it has not been easy. When you look at the figures, it's one of the flashpoints for election violence, Kogi State. So a lot of people are saying the main concern is not even about the Independent Electoral Commission. It's going to be about security, and security of lives and properties. I have an independent observer with me here, Nelson Ekujumi. Nelson, how are you?
I'm fine. Good evening. Good evening to our viewers.
So from what you've seen on ground, what will be the major concern tomorrow?
Well, for me, I think the major concern will be, like I rightly said, the issue of security, because I've also gone around the state and I've talked to some people. The level of violence that predated the election proper, the electioneering process, there were pockets of violence here and there, and people are only praying that, they hope we won't have a repeat of what happened 4 years ago. But looking at the security turnouts, I must confess, we've had a massive, deployment of security everywhere. As at yesterday, even till this afternoon, you always hear siren of security men patrolling the streets, and I think that should
trend for election.
Yes,
this will still creep up.
Well, we hope that the security agencies, because
I will tell you, they've drafted helicopters.
Yes, we've seen helicopters flying over the air. But one thing I can assure you, or I can, I have this confidence about, is that early deployment security apparatus, because I recognize that for this election, the security apparatus came in very early, and they've been drafted since about 2 days ago, which means the security must have done, their cross checks, and they have identified some spots that could be, outbreaks for violence. So we must be expectant, because going around the state, one could see that there's relative calm. People are expecting that tomorrow we'll have elections. People are even looking at, by 3-4 p.m. that everywhere life will return to normal, because there's a little bit of tension, in the air. So, but
turnout.
No, but you must also recognize that
massive.
I expect the turnout not to be, lower than what we had in the presidential, in view of the fact that, like we say, every politics is local. The local factors that is part of the reasons driving the electorate, as well as that has driven the campaigns, will also propel some of the voters to come out there to cast their votes. So I don't expect the turnout to be less than maybe 30-35%. So because if you look at these elections in this country, except during the days of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, where we had about 90% or 100% turnout, and we know what happened. It was because of the electoral malpractice that that was the order of the day. But since the introduction of the e-card reader and with the introduction of the Vivas, you can no longer vote by proxy. You can see that their election turnout since the introduction of the technological devices by INEC have resulted in a downward, turnout, which means before, there were lots of instances where people who were not on, we had election, disputes in this country where it was discovered that a Martin Luther King voted in Nigeria, a Nelson Mandela voted in Nigeria, and we know what obtained them. But now these days with this new with this electronic device, whereby if it does not authenticate you by the fingerprint or by facial recognition, you are not allowed to vote. It has led to a reduction in the voters' turnout. But be that as it may, because of the number of PVCs that have been collected, one expects
94%.
94%. One expects that for us to beat our chest and say we have done well, at least we must be looking at doing an A. And in any exam, for you to score an A means you must have scored 70, and above.
Okay, I want to thank you, Nelson Ekujimi. So the litmus test is going to be for the security agencies to be able to boost the confidence of residents of Kogi State to be able to come out in mass, so that the number of 94% return rate for the permanent voter card would not be in vain. And a lot of people are observing that, look, for them to have a pass mark, we should be able to have like 50%. If you have 50%, then we're good. And talking about the Independent National Electoral Commission, they said they've added additional 900 BVAS machines across the 21 local governments in case this have any hiccup in any of the 3,026 polling units.
Indeed. 50% is very ambitious, AY. We spoke with an acting director of INEC recently who mentioned that you have to consider that some people have jackpot,
Yeah.
and that would also affect the figures. But